A very good afternoon to all of you. As you know, my name is Mukesh Kalra and I represent an organization which is called FSME. And I'm here to speak about the opportunities for the SMEs in India. But before I proceed, I would like to thank Hong Kong Trade Development Corporation for the opportunity given to us for being present at such an important platform. Now, before I proceed, about the opportunities in India, I think a couple of things which are also necessary for you to understand is about our organization which works very deeply in India, in the SME space, about what the SMEs are in India, why India. It's not only about the opportunities in India, but also why India. And then I come to the opportunities, and towards the conclusion of my speech, I will tell you about two very big important opportunities that are coming in India in the SME space. So to begin with, my organization, as the name says, FSME, Federation of Indian Micro and Small and Medium Enterprises, started in the year 1967. We were known by the name of NAYE, N-A-Y-E, National Alliance for Young Entrepreneurs. In 1991, we had a process of restructuring and we gave it a new name in 1995. Today it is popularly known in India by the name of FSME. The organization structure of this organization is, it's a non-profit organization. It is run by 21 people who are called the Central Executive Committee members, popularly known as the CEC members. And out of this 21 Central Executive Committee members, 5 people are elected every year by a process of election who are the office bearers. We have offices in Delhi. We very recently opened up an office in south of India at a place called Bangalore, which is known as the IT Center, and also an office in Hyderabad. Now, a lot of people over here might be wondering that we have got only offices in Delhi. How do we work on a national level and how do we put the Indian companies in touch with the international companies? We follow the purpose for which we were established. We were not established as an association, we were established as a federation. So we work through a network of associations. We have 730 associations across India who are our members. Now these associations work both in the geographic space as well in the sector space. So what we do is we get the information, we pass on to these associations, and in these associations in turn pass it on to their members. We don't try to open up offices in every city of India because what we feel is that these associations are on the ground, they are in touch with the Indian MSMEs on a day-to-day basis, and they can reach out to them in a much better way. As far as the activities of FSME is concerned, being a chamber, we do all the normal activities of a chamber of commerce, whether it's organizing seminar, workshop, buyer-seller meets, trade delegations, research studies, publications, and I take care of the international trade, and we basically focus on the B2B meetings. And one of the main purpose that we do under the B2B meetings is we concentrate a lot on the foreign delegations that come into India. We organize their meetings on a professional basis. And what basically happens in a lot of cases, people come, they have a meeting and they leave the country, but there is no follow-up. What we do is we do a lot of follow-up with the Indian companies unless and until we get an answer whether they are really interested in tying up or not. I don't mean to say whenever there is a company and you come to India, you have a B2B meeting, the result will come out. But we do our homework not only till the meeting, but even after the meeting. Now coming to the SMEs. It is very important for you to understand who the SMEs are in India, because that's the sector with whom you want to work. Unlike in other countries, generally in a lot of countries you define the SMEs on the basis of the number of employees they have. You also define the SMEs on the basis of the turnover of the organization. But in India, we define the SMEs very differently. We define the SMEs on the basis of the investment they make in the plant and machinery. And I'm talking about the investment made in the critical plant and machinery, not in the land, building and fixtures. Let's say a typical unit in India, which is in the micro sector, would be a company which has invested in plant and machinery to the tune of rupees 25 lakhs, which means approximately $50,000. A small enterprise in India would be a company that has invested into the critical plant and machinery to the tune of $1 million. And a medium would be a company which has invested up to the tune of $2 million. Similarly, in the service sector, we define the SMEs on the basis of what they have invested in their equipments. Now, the SMEs plays a very important role in India. They are considered to be the backbone of the Indian economy, the drivers of the Indian economy. This sector manufactures more than 8,000 products. They are the second largest employer in India after agriculture. Now, what is very important for you to understand is that 40% of the industrial output, that is 40% of the manufacturing, comes from the SMEs in India. Also, the direct exports is 40% from the MSMEs, and the indirect exports is more than 50%. Now, what we have realized recently that the SMEs are taking up a lot of interest not only into the international trade, but also when the government of India frames the policies for the SMEs, which has importance for the international trade. So it means that the interest of the Indian MSMEs in the outward trade is increasing day by day. Now, one of the biggest advantages of this sector is when you do business with them is they also enjoy the benefits from the central government as well as from the provincial government. And recently the government has come out with a priority lending scheme, which means all the Indian MSMEs will get priority both from the government banks as well as from the foreign banks when it comes to the lending to the industry. So a fixed percentage is embarked upon for the MSMEs from these banks. Now, the MSME sector in India is quite big. The figures are mind-boggling. It's 26 million. But having said that, one of the major drawbacks with the SMEs in India is about the technology, about the design, because the numbers are so big. There are very good SMEs, but a lot of SMEs in India actually need the design, they need the technology. So this is just to give you a broad view about what the SMEs are in India. Now, what is important for you is not only about the opportunities for the SMEs in India, but also why India. Everybody knows India has the largest democracy in the world, but that is of one importance. What is of more importance is that this is the biggest free market economy in the world. We have a very well established judicial system as well as a political system. In the last decade or so, the growth of the economy has been more than 8%. We have been the second largest economic driver in the world for the last decade after China. Now, when it comes to doing business with India, another big advantage is the language. You know, a lot of countries you do business, you have a problem with the language. But when you go to a country like India, I'm not only talking about the capital Delhi or Mumbai or Kolkata or Chennai. I'm not talking about the B-class metros like Pune, Hyderabad, and other cities. But what I am also talking about the small cities. You go anywhere in India, language will never be a problem. Everybody speaks English, both verbal as well as written. So that solves a lot of problem because at times, you know, you have to take along with you interpreter and you don't want to discuss a couple of things in front of them. So that is not an issue. And life becomes very easy when there is no communication gap. Another reason why you should look at India is we have the second highest population in the world after China. Both Delhi, which is the capital, and Mumbai, which is the commercial and the financial capital, has a population of more than 10 million. As a matter of fact, by the year 2002, 2 of the 5 world biggest cities will be from India, New Delhi and Mumbai, both in terms of population as well as in terms of land area. Now recently, this is something, you know, I can share with you with a lot of confidence because it says seeing is believing. And I've seen this with my own eyes. I've seen my parents, how they used to spend, you know, a decade back or maybe 15 years back. They were just spending money on what was very necessary in life. They were just not willing to go for anything that was not necessary. But today, if you see, the whole scenario has changed in India. It's a country of a very young population. Everybody is spending a lot of money and they're just not caring about the basic requirement. What they are caring is basically for the best of the facilities they can avail. So when the trend has changed, instead of spending only on the basic commodity, you start spending for every service that you want to avail. And you want to avail the best of the facilities. There is a huge demand for all kinds of products. Since we are a chamber of commerce and we work for the SME space, but I take care of the international trade, so I'm in touch with a lot of chambers which work for the big companies also, though I also work for the big companies at times. I've seen the communication that we are now receiving in India from the multinationals. I'm not saying that the figures of the multinationals in India is mind-boggling, but the sort of correspondence that I am receiving now from the multinationals in India gives me an idea how keen they are about the Indian market. Every now and then there is a new multinational which is setting up base in India. If you want to do a business, one of the most important thing is IT. In today's world, IT is one of the most important thing if you want to do business in any sector. Now India is probably the best place in the world about the IT sector. The IT exports is $60 billion. It's a mind-boggling figure, but this is what we export from India. And we have a lot of big companies like Microsoft, Wipro, Oracle, and a lot of SMEs also in the IT sector. Now, if you're just talking about the GDP of India, the current GDP is 1.6 trillion US dollars. By the year 2002, it's going to be a $5 to $6 trillion economy. So from 1.6 today, we're talking about $5 to $6 trillion economy by the year 2002. Similarly, if you talk about the per capita income in India, today it is approximately US dollars 1,200. But by the year 2020, we are talking about 4,200 US dollars. So if you look both at the GDP and you look at the per capita income, there's going to be a drastic increase in both the things. Now, when this increase will take place, obviously the consumer behavior will change. Now, at the same time, what I can also share with you is we have more than 5 million families in India who are in the top segment. And this top segment is buying the most luxurious brands of the world. They're going for foreign holidays. Whatever whatever the rate of the dollar might be, if you have seen the last 1 month or so, there has been like 10 to 15% increase in the price of dollar as compared to the Indian currency. It does not bother. They just want to buy whatever comes their way. They have that kind of a money with them. In addition to that, we have a very strong 200 billion size middle class income. Now, this middle class income also can afford, a lot of smartphones, refrigerator, television, and reasonably priced products. Then we have a 500 billion economy which is below the middle class. When I say below the middle class, they generally spend more on the utility products. They generally think about the high-end products only when it is necessary for them. But it's also a very strong economic driver. About a quarter of our population is, yes, below the low level, but they're also catching up fast. If you're talking about the foreign direct investments in India, we are considered to be the third most preferred country today in the world. As a matter of fact, the highest return on FDIs comes from India. If you're just talking about the mobile phone market in India, we were just 791 million subscribers today. And by 2020, it's going to be the biggest market of the mobile subscribers in the world. Similarly, if you talk about the internet usage, in the year 2000, we were just talking about 8 million people. And in 2010, it's going to be 100 million. So from 8 million to 100 million. So you can see how well the economy is going to grow in the times to come. Similarly, if you talk about the LCD market in India, in 2000 there were no LCDs. And today we are a 6 million plus market already. I don't know the figures, but recently I read in an article that there are going to be 58 million jobs in India in the travel sector alone. So imagine a country, when you have a 58 million job coming up only in the tourism sector, how well the economy is going to do in the times to come. If you talk about the automobile sector in India, the automobile components sector is growing at a rate of 20%. It's not a small figure, automobile components. When you have a growth rate of 20% in the automobile components, it obviously means that the automobile sector is doing very well, because the automobile components is the supply chain to the automobile sector. And today you name all the big names, whether you're talking about Honda, you're talking about Nissan, you're talking about Hyundai, you're talking about General Motors, you're talking about Ford, they are all in India. In the year 2006, we had just 60 models of cars. Today we have 128. Why these big companies are coming out with new models is because there is a big demand. People have a high level of income today. They can go for the most luxurious brands. They want new vehicles to come up on the market. Now, having said all this, the GDP is growing, the per capita income is growing, the automobile sector is growing, the tourism sector is growing. A full stop. India is not an easy market. It's not a market where you just can come and do business. It's a very, very big country. You will have to spend a little bit of time in India, a little bit of money. It's not that you come with a business delegation, you participate in a fair in India, in Delhi, and you say, okay, I find it a right partner in India and can go ahead. It's too big a country in terms of size. So you need to spend a little bit of money, time, travel to New Delhi, travel to Mumbai, go to the to the east to Calcutta, go to an important place like Gujarat, which is a very upcoming province in India, and then arrive at a decision. I'm not a diplomat, neither am I a politician. I'm a hardcore marketing professional. So I know on the ground what exactly happens. What you read on the internet and what you read in the newspaper, it might be a different story. But when it comes to doing practical business in India, the story is very, very different. You need to find the right partner. And the right partner in India, we can help you. SKTDC, which already also has a presence in India, can help you. What we have concluded is, if you really want to capture the Indian market in a big way, you should go for the transfer of technology. As I said earlier in my presentation, a lot of SMEs in India need new technology, new designs. If you are not into that space, you can look at a joint venture. You can look at obtaining the subcontracting rights or outsourcing to the Indian partners. Now, these are the 4 things that you really need to consider if you want to capture the Indian market in a big way. Now, what happens is you may not be able to capture the market very quickly. It might take you some time. But once you capture the market in India, the size is so big that probably you need to put all your devotion, all your efforts into the Indian market. Now, what I said in the beginning, that I'm going to share with you 2 very important opportunities that are coming in the Indian sector. One is the FDI in the retail sector. Recently, you might have seen in the newspaper, in the internet, that the government of India has opened up the FDI in retail. Now, this has come with a clause, and the clause is that 30% of the sourcing would be from the MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So all of you who are present over here, who are already doing business with big retail chains like Walmart, Target, Carrefour, or you intend to do business with them, you need to establish a joint venture with an Indian company so that you can cater to a very big demand of these retailers, big retail chains that are now going to be set up in India. Second big opportunity which is coming up in India, now this I was talking about the non-engineering sector, now I'm going to talk about the engineering sector, is the defense, aerospace, and particularly the homeland security market. Now a lot of people might be wondering what the SMEs have to do in the defense, aerospace, and the homeland security. The government of India has recently announced a policy which is called the offset policy. Now, as per the offset policy, whatever is bought by the Indian government, by the Indian defense forces from abroad, 30% has to come from India. So far what was happening is that the government of India was paying billions of dollars to a company like Lockheed Martin to buy the F-16 planes or to the British Aerospace. Now that's not going to be possible. We are going to still pay billions of dollars, but this company will have to buy 30% from India. Now this 30% will not come from big companies in India because Lockheed Martin or British Aerospace or Group and Group doesn't need the wings of the aeroplanes. That's the technology they have and they've mastered that technology. What they would need is castings, forging, high precision components, injection moldings. All this will come from the MSME space. But you can enter only this when you establish a joint venture or you transfer the technology. As I said earlier, a lot of SMEs in India need new designs. They need the technology. So if you transfer this to the Indian MSMEs, because this is a very critical sector, defense, aerospace, and homeland security, you'll supply them the technology, they will be able to meet the offset requirement of the big companies. And the market is estimated to be $100 billion. and 30% will come back to India in terms of offsets. According to us, it's the biggest market opportunity today in India. To conclude, I've been talking to a lot of SMEs across the world, and they've shown a lot of interest in the Indian market. But the problem is, because of the slowdown in USA, in Europe, and in other parts of the world, these SMEs are just postponing the market for India, though they feel that they will have to at one stage enter into the India market. Now, what I try to tell these SMEs is, if you have already decided that you have to enter the Indian market sooner or later, why not today? Thank you.